So, if you have a painfully simple explanation for what you observe, if you have to reach to some really quite elaborate scenario involving hundreds of players, you're probably overthinking this. And a lot of what I've seen recently with the YouTube versus the mainstream media has sort of taken this wild left turn into conspiracy theory.
Of course, I love the Occam's razor approach, but conspiracy theories are often far simpler than they seem. They often aren't technically conspiracies at all. What if I asked, which is more likely, that there exists an omnipotent universe-creating invisible sky god, or that billions of people throughout history are in on a conspiracy to convince me that there is? Okay, bad example. The latter is still far more likely. The point is, though, that there wasn't really a conspiracy at all. Each of those people had their own individual incentives for belief. They don't even have to be the same incentives for different individuals. If there is a reason for a group of people to want to believe something or do something, there's no need to conspire together. Was the mainstream media involved in the conspiracy to invade Iraq? No, they didn't need to be. Colin Powell didn't even need to be in on it. A very small group of people got a ball rolling. Everyone else had their own incentives to want to believe in WMDs, or at least to believe in taking action. There are large groups of people with reason to want to see YouTubers fail. Those at the top, of course, have large and direct financial interest in preserving old media. Now, for one, this can easily lead to an anti-independent media culture in these circles, but the boss man never actually has to say, hey, anytime you get to take a jab at independent media, go for it. The journalists and columnists themselves have independent incentives, even if they didn't feel their employer or entire industry were threatened. If you're a big shot journalist working for a real publication, the last thing you want is for some amateur with a camera to have a bigger audience than you. That bum's not supposed to be on your level. We have the perfect conditions for a typical, it happens all the time, self-perpetuating conspiracy, which of course is the opposite of a conspiracy. All it takes is one Joe Bob journalist to take a jab at those YouTuber bums, and then there's blood in the water. Now every resentful, legitimate journalist and every fearful employer sees the time to strike. Sure, they all had their own incentives at any other given time, but they know now their voices are amplified if they echo each other in rapid succession. I've heard one big voice say it's no coincidence that this has happened on the eve of war. Okay, now that one probably is a coincidence. The military-industrial complex just lucked out on that one. We've supposedly been on the eve of war with Russia for years now. The same non-coincidence claim could have been made at the eve of the election or during the primary. There's pretty much never a bad time to silence independent voices if you're the establishment. There, now you understand how most quote-unquote conspiracies work. Now, does Thunderfoot understand all this? Probably. But he's the one who taught me there's nothing wrong with the occasional clickbait title.